Right. It looks like we have most, if not everyone, online so far. So hello, and thank you for joining today's group learning session on patient booking. My name is Austin De La Osa, and I'm a customer success manager here at Elation. I'm here to walk you through this. And to my right, we have Sean O'Grady, product manager here at Elation. So I'll let him kind of introduce himself, tell you a little bit about what we've been working on, and then we'll get into the session.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Austin. Hi, everyone. My name is Sean, product manager at Elation. Worked on a lot of what we're going to see today, and we're super excited to share it with you. Really excited to hear feedback and questions. So we'll take some time. Austin will tell you about kind of Q&A session as well. We'll take some time at the end to make sure we answer all your questions. I should be able to answer most of them today. If we can't get to all of them today, don't worry. We'll also send a follow-up that has answers to all the questions today, and we'll open things up to more questions later on. So we're super excited to have everyone here. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And Sean and I did not plan to wear almost the exact same shirt today, so that was not planned. So first off, I'd like to kind of share what we'll be covering in the next 60 minutes and how the session will be conducted, so everyone kind of has a sense of what to expect. So want to first off just kind of highlight why Elation does what it does, why we're here to support you, provide a brief overview of the patient booking experience, so why and kind of how it will benefit you and your practice and your staff. Then the bulk of the session will be a walkthrough of the new feature. So that is a great place to jot down your questions, like Sean said in the Q&A, as you're seeing it live so that we can get to it later. Then we'll follow up with some resources that you can reference for help later on, and then follow it up with our question and answering session, which will also take up probably 15 to 20, 25 minutes, depending on when we get finished. So that's the agenda for today.
One more just tip. So within your Zoom window, you'll see on the Zoom controls both a Q&A icon and a chat icon. If you can, put your questions into the Q&A section. It gives us a few more options to be able to answer you, and it also allows us to keep all those questions afterwards. If you forget that and you happen to put it into chat, don't worry, we'll get to those as well. It just makes things a little bit easier for us to record and capture everything.
Yeah, great tip. Cool. So why does Elation exist? Want to remind everyone why Elation does what it does. And so we exist to help enable providers to use Elation to strengthen the relationship between patients and physicians and enable phenomenal care for everyone. So we consistently use this mission statement as a framework when designing new features and deciding on what type of experience we want to deliver to our customers. So it's really important for you guys to know what helps guide us to improve the experience for our customers. So how will this help your practice, the patient booking site? So we've heard from many of our users that the ability for patients to book their own appointments was an important feature to them. Whether it's getting more patients booked and showing up for an annual wellness exam, or simply removing the timely task of scheduling lots and lots of patients during the week, we've heard you, and we're proud to show you what we've been working so hard on. So in this hour, we'll be discussing how Elation can help simplify the number of tools you need to run your practice and improve the experience for your patients in the process. So we hope that by automating scheduling tasks, Elation can free up the care team so you can spend more time delivering care and allowing your practice to thrive. So by the end of this session, you will know how to set up your booking site and understand how patients can easily book appointments with Elation. Like Sean mentioned, if you have any questions, throw them in the Q&A. Great place for us to answer questions and get some feedback from you guys as the session goes on. So with that, I want to move actually into the application and show you what we've been working on. So give me a second here to get that up.
Do you want to, we can also pause the video and.
Oh yeah, we're going to go ahead and stop the video too, so you can focus on the application. Cool. Actually, I got to show you this first. So let's say you're looking to get more of your patients scheduled for an annual wellness exam. It's important that patients come in at least one time a year to check in and make sure they're doing okay. So I'm going to pretend to be that patient or be a patient. I'm going to be Peter Parker. And Peter Parker is a patient at Elation South. His provider, Dr. Beverly Crusher, has sent him a message saying it's time for his annual wellness exam. She then provides him with a link, which you can see right below there, to book the appointment. So that direct link is what I'll be clicking on. And so you can either surface your practice booking link or a specific visit note type. And what that means is if you want just your patient to see one specific appointment, in this case, an annual wellness exam, when they click on that, that's the only appointment they'll be able to book. So in this use case, an annual wellness is actually great. If you just want your patient to come in for that annual wellness visit, you can give them that direct link. And Peter, in this case, can get that link wherever the practice has decided to put it. So that could be on your website, in a passport message, or any other place you direct your patients to go. And once that link is clicked, it then takes Peter to your booking site. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Great. So you should be able to see this Elation product internal practice site. So from here, Peter can see your practice name, your address, office number, email, office hours, practice information, and practice location on the right-hand side of the map as well. And all of this information is configured in your settings, which we'll get to later. But Peter then can select a provider. So let's go ahead and select one, Dr. Beverly Crusher. Now, if you have additional providers in your practice, as long as they've been added to this appointment type, they will also show up. So if you're a multi-provider clinic, just know that you can add multiple providers. Next step here is to select a time. And so we provided kind of today's times, but if those don't work out, if you hit this more option here to the right, you'll see obviously more options. Let's say we want to book right after the holidays and select 9:30. So from here, you'll see at the top details of the appointment. We can kind of continually surface this information so the provider is informed about what they're booking and when they're booking it. So annual wellness exam, Thursday, this is the practice and some practice information. Peter then can log in as a guest or use their passport account if they have one, which will then map to a chart in Elation. So the way this works is our matching algorithm makes sure a patient appointment is matched correctly to the charts. If we can't find a patient match, we'll then create a new chart, but we'll also do a secondary check and make a suggestion, that this chart might be a match to the other chart. If the provider can verify that it's a match, they then can merge the charts, which we've made it really easy to do within the demographic window. And then they can also enter in their passport information if they prefer. So in this case, I'm just going to go fill out as guest. Okay. And let's put in a phone number. Cool. Awesome. So again, this is the next window here where we're going to review and confirm the appointment, or Peter is. So again, we've listed what the details of the appointment are, and then we've also surfaced your cancellation policy, and that again is configured in your booking site settings, which we'll get to later. Again, we just want to make sure the patient is aware of any kind of fees or timing issues related to canceling. So the next step here is to confirm the appointment and confirm the booking with the practice. Great. So this takes Peter to a confirmation page acknowledging he has booked an appointment with your practice. And additional new information is surfaced here informing the patient that Elation has sent him an email. You can see that here with details of the appointment. And again, we surface the cancellation policy here again in case they need to. And then there's a little resource link here, which I'll get to later in the booking site setup experience walkthrough. So when Peter opens his email, it again will outline what service he has booked. So I'm going to go jump to that. Here it is. So this is the email that he would get. And it outlines what service he has booked, the date and time of the appointment, additional patient information, location, and the ability to add the event to either their Google, Outlook, or Apple Calendar for easy reference. And you can see those links down here. And again, throughout the process, we're informing Peter what the cancellation policy is to ensure patients are aware of any timelines or fees for canceling. So once the appointment is booked, Elation will then send out appointment reminders that are configured by the practice beforehand to ensure Peter shows up. This means a reduction in no-shows and increased revenue as patients are better engaged and informed about their visit. And so you'll see here this first appointment reminder. This is kind of a text. This can be a text message or an email. You'll see two options at the bottom: I will be there or cancel appointment. So if they select I will be there, they'll get another reply that says your appointment has been confirmed. And if they cancel, it will say your appointment has been canceled, and then we'll list or surface your booking site link. So it enables the patient to still book a new appointment, which is the ultimate goal here, is to make sure they at least reschedule that. And whatever status the appointment changes to will actually also surface to the calendar. So for instance, if Peter does nothing, he just ignores all the reminders, but still shows up maybe, it will just say scheduled. If he confirms it, it will list it as confirmed in his appointment in the calendar. And if he cancels, we'll obviously surface that as canceled. So both providers and staff are informed about what the status is of that patient's appointment. Great. So now that we have gone through the patient side of things, let's walk through how to set up your booking site. So we made it super easy to get your booking site up and running by introducing a lot of smart controls on how patients book your time. So giving you essentially ultimate control on who books and how. That's the most important piece here as we were building this, was to implement as many controls as possible for the practice. So if you click on your email in the top right corner and then click on settings, it will take you to your settings page. And if you scroll down just a tad under practice settings, you'll get to calendar and booking, which is a new kind of settings page for us. And we've made a lot of big changes to how practices make decisions to allocate their resources and time availability here, and have now put essentially everything related to calendaring all in the same place. So you'll see not just things for the booking site, but also your general calendar settings. Things like rooms and calendar are also here. And we'll, again, get into that in just a little bit. So we recommend using the 6 tabs at the top as a guide and moving from left to right, top down, to set up your booking site. This is kind of the easiest and most, and I think, intuitive way. You might find a better way, but this is my recommendation. And so what we'll want to do is first start with appointments. And so when you click on appointments, you'll see your existing appointment types pulled in to the new settings page here. So if I scroll down, you'll see all of my different appointment types here listed. This is where you'll be making changes to their appointments. And starting with the annual wellness exam, click on Edit to open up the appointment details. So for some existing users, this might look a little familiar. This is where you want to edit the appointment type. And so from here, you can edit update, the name of the appointment, the duration. So we can make this a 45-minute appointment if so, or a much longer one. You can change the name. You can change the tag, and this tag shows up on the calendar. So when a patient books, you can see, hey, this is my AWV. And then for providers and staff, if you guys like to color code your different appointment types, this is the button drop down to select. The next step here is to update your auto-created visit note settings. So essentially what this visit note format option does is when you click on the patient's name from their booked appointment or any calendar appointment, it will automatically deploy the visit note format you have selected. So in this case, I have the complete H&P 2 note 2-column AP. If I wanted a SOAP note to deploy or 1 column, I just make the selection. Now, this is a practice level setting, but we will always let the provider select their own preferences when it comes to which visit note format they'd like to use for a specific appointment type. And that's always done under preferences here. You can see my mouse kind of hovering over it. So that will always override what's listed here. Next is visit note category. So this is the simplest form is just the title of your visit note, the name of it. So if I want my name to match the appointment type, I want to make sure I put annual wellness exam. Okay. And then lastly, this is a new feature for us, which I'm really excited about. This is the visit note template auto creation. So this will automatically deploy a visit note template into my 2-column note when I open up this patient's chart from the calendar. So with one click, it opens up my note, titles my note, and deploys the text that I want from my template, which is pretty cool. Next step here is to make sure that if you want this appointment type to be bookable, some folks might not want to, right? You can pick and choose which appointments you want to be booked. Check this box here. So this box makes sure that it shows up on the booking site. Make sure to include a description of the appointment so patients know kind of what to expect during the visit. You can do that here. It's just free text. And then we also want to make sure that we've added all of the providers who you want to book or be available to book for this type of appointment. So in this case, we just have one provider, Dr. Beverly Crusher, but if I click into the space here, I can see all of my different providers here. And let's say Dr. Sharon Lee also does annual wellness exams, or maybe she doesn't, we want to remove it. You can do that there. So I'm actually going to add one more person here too. Let's do test doctor. And then lastly, we've added a nice place for you to link other resources to the appointment. And so essentially what that means is, let's say you want the patient to be directed to your Dropbox file sharing site so that they can see your privacy policy form. Or if you need them to complete pre-visit intake forms and you want to direct them to another place like your website, this is a handy link to do that. And if I click add another, I can add additional links here. So if I have my Dropbox and maybe my website, I can do that there. And I can simply remove the option there to make it one. So the last step here is to click save when you've completed it. I want to make sure we do that. And if you would like to make edits to other appointments, just simply go down the list, click edit. And then if you want it to be on the booking site, make sure that you click that checkbox that we identified earlier. And another kind of cool trick here is if you want your appointment types to be moved in terms of priority or just in terms of just organization, click this little grouping of dots and it allows you to kind of move it up and down. And then lastly, you can always add new appointment types by clicking on add appointment type up there in the top right. So as we move along the right, to the right, along the top of the page, we get to availability. This is another very important step in setting up your booking site. So this is where you assign availability for each provider. So we've allowed each provider within the practice to set their own hours, as many providers have different breaks, different working days, different working hours. They might have blocks of time in the morning and are off in the afternoon. So we wanted to be able to allow as much control for each provider to maintain their schedule. So you'll see here that Dr. Sharon Lee has already filled out her availability. She's available from 9 to 5 every day. But she might take a lunch for an hour. So if we want to kind of incorporate that in here, we can create blocks of time. So if I click add another here, let's do 9 a.m. to 12. And the easiest way to find the times, in my opinion, is just to simply type out the first, the actual number and select it. And then let's say that she takes an hour lunch and is available now at 1:15 and ends at 5. There we go there. So you can do that for as many blocks of time as you want. So if you work for 2 hours in the morning, take a 4-hour break, and then another 2 hours, you can keep adding additional time blocks here to kind of make it available to the patient. Test doctor also would need to do it, and Dr. Crusher. So however many providers are kind of available to use this, you want to make sure that their hours are selected. Now, one thing to note is if there's already a scheduled appointment on the calendar, let's say your staff, someone called in and they booked the appointment, the patient will not see that as an available option to book, right? So that's already been taken. If you've created an other event Let's say you've booked it over for a meeting or something else. Again, the patient will not be able to book over that from the online booking site. And lastly, if you're using our Google Calendar sync and you're syncing your own personal events from Google, again, those will block off any time, so patients will not be able to book over those as well. So those are kind of 3 other use cases here where patients can't book, in addition to the availability that each provider assigns themselves. Just want to make that clear. All right, next step here as we move along to the right is the actual booking site. This is, I would say, the next big item here. So this is where you're going to enable your actual booking site for it to be live. So from here, where it says enable booking site, you'll want to make sure that this is toggled to on. As a default, this is off. So for every practice, that obviously has the booking site, which should be every practice, we've turned this off as a default feature. You have to actually enable it for it to be live. So just want to make that clear as well. So let's go ahead and enable it. And what this does is it allows me now to copy my booking site URL, which I can put anywhere I'd like. Like I mentioned before, that could be your website. You could put it behind like a button to make it easy for patients to click on. You could put it on your social media page. You could put it in a personal message to the patient. So if you want to use the patient portal from Elation or another messaging platform that you might use, just go ahead and copy that link and paste it there. We also can customize the link. So if I click on customize, you can go ahead and update this section here. So if I wanted to name this the name of my practice, Elation Product or Elation South, go ahead and click Save. And then this window pops up, which is really important to note. So let's say that you've started using this booking site yesterday and you've already pasted your old link in various places. Maybe you've put it on your website or you've put it on a social media page or something. You would need to update that link with the new one here so that patients can actually book. If not, you're going to run into issues. And so what I would recommend doing is if you want to do this and customize, make sure you update that today so you can start booking patients. Great. So as you scroll down, you'll get to practice information. I recommend creating a site message here, little bit here, to let patients know about important details about booking or your practice, or if you have any reminders for them before they book, or any special just messages around the booking experience. This is a great place to provide that message because they'll see it as soon as they get to the booking site. Make sure you have your email address updated. This is your office email, your office phone, and obviously your clinic address. Now, practice hours here are purely for the booking site landing page to disclose your office hours. So it's essentially like hanging a sign on your front door of your office for patients to see. And do note, this is really important, that patients can book outside your office hours. And so it's really based on the provider's availability when patients can book. So for instance, if I put 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and my provider, let's go back here, yep, Dr. Sharon Lee, does 8 o'clock, this little flag will show up and it will say availability selected is outside the set practice hours. So just telling the provider that, hey, your typical office hours are actually 9 to 5, just want to let you know that you're outside of that. But patients can still book starting at 8 o'clock. Okay. So the next few sections we have here is preferences. So this is actually a really important control mechanism that we've implemented to make it so you can really personalize and customize your booking site. So the first one is the amount of minimum notice required for booking online. And what this basically means is how much time do you need to actually get patients to book. So for instance, if we select 2 days and I'm booking an appointment today, today's Thursday, the earliest I'd be able to book is Saturday if you have Saturday availability, okay? So it just means that how quickly can a patient book an appointment? And the reason why we put this in place is so that patients don't book an appointment an hour before before they arrive, essentially. The next step here is the amount of future availability. shown on the booking site. So this is how far in advance the patient will see available appointments to schedule. So right now we have it as a week. You might want to have it as 2 weeks. So if I'm booking today, I'll only see 2 weeks ahead in the future. Again, this is supposed to help control for if you guys are going on vacation and you want to just make sure that you're keeping things not too far in advance to make sure you configure that. And again, there's a lot of different options here, so just make sure you scroll all the way through so you see all the menu options. And lastly, under preferences is a toggle to turn off or on the ability to send the treating provider, so that's the booked provider, and the office email, which we have here, an email after each online booking. Essentially, it's just an email that says, hey, Peter's booked an appointment with you. Here's what time and here's what date. So you can turn that off or on. And then lastly is a cancellation policy to include, to make sure that your patients understand your policy in case they ever need to cancel. And I mentioned earlier that we surface that in lots of different places. And please note that Elation does not enforce these cancellation policies, so we're not able to kind of act on them if there is a cancellation. Awesome. So the last step is setting up your calendar view, reminders, and rooms, kind of bundle it all together. And like I mentioned before, we've added calendar and view, and rooms to this new booking site page to make it really easy and accessible for you to manage everything about your calendar. So we just want to put it all under one roof. So the first step here is make sure that you've updated your appointment time block intervals. This is just what the calendar will list the appointments as, or the times on your calendar. So for instance, if you prefer to see things on the 15 or the quarter, you can do that. So it will show 9, 9:15, 9:30, 9:45 on your calendar. Or if you prefer half hour, it will say 9, 9:30. Patients can still book in between those hours. It just means it's a visual configuration for the calendar. Next one is whether or not you want the durations of each appointment to show up. So our annual wellness exam was a 60-minute appointment. If I leave this turned off, it will show the 60 minutes. If I actually toggle it on, it will hide it. It's kind of a opposite effect here. And then this is another big important piece. If a patient cancels their appointment or a staff member does, this, when turned on, will show the canceled appointment in the calendar, meaning it will keep it displayed. If we turn it off, it means that the calendar appointment will actually get removed, and basically it's hidden, but it will still show up on appointment reports in case you want to pull a report at a later date. So leave that on for now. So reminders. We've updated our reminders to include up to 3 appointment reminders to go out to make sure patients make it to their appointment. We recommend a 3-day, 1-day, you can put a 1 hour here as well, to just ensure that you've targeted them enough to make sure they make it. And so we can do it either through SMS, email, or phone message. So depending on the patient's contact preference, we'll send it to the appropriate channel. And the way you would update the patient's contact method is from their patient chart, go into demographics, and under preferences, there's a drop-down menu to select their contact method. Now, if the patient needs to cancel and they do it via email or SMS text, we will display your booking link again, like I showed you with the Peter Parker example. We'll show that booking link so that they can reschedule it. We definitely want them to make it in. And if everyone could, when they get to this page, just review the language and the messaging that we use. So you'll see when we send out an SMS appointment reminder, this is what we'll say. This is the reply if they cancel. This is for email. And this is for email appointment canceled. And then this is the phone message that goes out, the automated message. Now, if you're not using the booking site or you've disabled it or whatever, these reminders will still work. So if you schedule a patient over the phone or through text or whatever and just put that on yourself as a staff or provider, these appointment reminders will still go out. This is not tied necessarily to the booking site, uniquely. Okay. last piece here is the rooms. So essentially you can update, manage the different types of rooms you have. You can change the names of them. So if you want to do like, you know, redwood room, if we're doing trees, pine room, get the point. And you can remove additional ones here. And what this does is it will surface a menu of room options when you've changed the patient's status from, let's say, scheduled or confirmed. And when you've put it as in room or in room vitals taken, you can then mark which room you've roomed them in. And so this just helps you manage that. Great. And then the last big piece that I want to make sure everyone is aware of is this tool up here, the admin only toggle. So right now, as you can see, the calendar and booking site is actually nested under practice settings. Right now, what that means is anyone in your practice can come in here and make edits and changes. If you want that, great. If you don't want that and you want only admins to be able to manage and track and keep up to date with this, you'll want to make sure that you toggle this to on, getting that teal color, meaning only admins in your practice who you've assigned can actually make changes and edits to this. So this is an important kind of thing to note. If you want to start using this and you want a little bit more control and some access control, just make sure to toggle that. And if you have any questions, we have these little icons here, which help provide some additional details about the feature. So you'll see that throughout the booking site settings. So with that, you should be well equipped to start setting up your booking site and start scheduling patients today.